The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to Sister Speak with me, Lamisa.
Me, Amina.
And me, Mariam.
So today we are live and our main topic is going to be on vanity, pride and perfection. But I guess first things first, Mariam, what's our show about?
So our show is a platform for Muslim girls to voice their own opinions on current events and issues, and even form discussions on general topics such as religion, culture, politics and social media. We'd like to note that all opinions and views are our own, and we respect all our other opposing views. A bit tongue twister today.
But before we get into everything, we're going to start off with our hot topic. No,
we're going to start off our thought of the week.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting with it, with our thoughts for the week. So, Amina, what's your thought for the week?
I actually have one, but it's very light-hearted and maybe a bit stupid.
Oh,
but
we love that.
But I'd like to say that being home alone is all fun and games until you fall down the stairs and no one's there to laugh at you. So that was an experience. I don't want to.
Oh my gosh. Do
you know what was weird? Is that I fell down the stairs and I wasn't upset because I fell down the stairs. I was like, no one's actually here to laugh at me. Like usually when you fall, everyone's
it's
like,
annoying.
You fell.
You just walk off in an angry half.
And I'm like, yeah. But no one was there. I just had to literally slide down the stairs and just carry on. That was honestly the weirdest experience.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's a very positive way to spin on it.
Just a heads up, just try not to fall down the stairs when you're home.
And no one else can help you.
We're not trying to encourage you to fall down the stairs. That's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I just mean watch your step, you know.
Watch your step.
Be careful.
Literally. What about you guys?
Mariam, what's your thought for the week?
Okay, my thought of the week is kind of like a build-up of everything that I've been saying for the last maybe month or so. I think I was discussing with Amina because you guys are probably sick of me here saying this, but I finally started to study again, which is quite a big step for me because I haven't done anything for one whole year.
Because you were on your placement year,
Yeah, I was on my placement years. I was working full-time, 9 to 5. I wasn't even in Luton, I was in Hatfield, so... And even the travelling aspect of it was quite tough. But I started to get back into studying, starting to read all my books. And I feel that, the leading up to it, I had so much anxiety and anticipation. But actually just taking that first step really has reduced that anxiety, not completely, but to quite a substantial extent. Mm-hmm. And I think what I really want to say is that just the first step is really difficult, but it gets easier as time goes along. And we just had a podcast, and I mentioned it in the podcast that when you do efforts towards something and you try your best, I think we should just have that conviction in ourselves and that faith in ourselves that we're doing the best we can do, and everything that's going to pan out is from God. So don't put that extra pressure on yourself. And especially when you're studying, I feel like personally it's really important to be organized. And Lamisa's smiling. It's really important to be organized, and it sounds really obvious, but
everyone says it, but if you're a student, you're not listening, so try and listen. Myself included.
When I mean organized, I mean everyone has a way to organize themselves in a different way. I think that's what the thing is. I think we tend to have this banner of organization, and then everyone thinks it's one size fit all, but the way you organize yourself is different to another person, and the way you prioritize your studies is going to be different to another person, because how you absorb your learning styles is quite different. So for me, just looking at my module schemes and looking at the reading list, and thankfully one of my lecturers, he kindly made this visual representation of the entire module. So it was like a stick that has signs on it, and it says week 1 we're going to talk about this themes, week 2, week 3, week 4. And because I read one book and I'm like, wow, okay, I've actually read ahead a little bit, it kind of made me feel a bit better. And I was like, okay, if I set myself the goal to read at least 3 or 4 weeks ahead,
it makes it more manageable.
It makes it more manageable, and you visually can see it. And I think even having I bought this planner from a stationery shop, and it just says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It says all the days of the week, but it doesn't have a date. So I put the date at the top of the page, and on Monday I write down all the things I'm going to do, and it really helps because it makes you feel productive.
Yeah.
And it helps you break down everything that you want to do and achieve. And even, if you weren't able to achieve everything that you wanted to that week, at least you know what's manageable, and at least you can visually see it.
Kind of declutters your mind as well
100%.
when you just simply write a list.
It's like your action plan. You know
and it kind of puts in order. Okay, like when you have so many things to do, it kind of makes you panic sometimes. It makes you feel like overwhelmed. But when you write it down, it's like, okay, it's fine. This is just what we have to do.
Unless you have like 26 lectures, which I've had before.
No, but then that's why it's quite good to have
even
the days of the week. But
it definitely helps.
Ticking it off and crossing it out is just like...
And it helps you keep track of what you've done.
Yeah.
That type of thing. I mean, obviously sticking to it is one thing, but actually doing it is, is good. I definitely find when I do have a list and I've organised everything in a way which I just have to go out and do it, it's a lot easier than, because when you have a point where you don't have a list, you're starting from nowhere, your mind goes and you're like, you don't know what it's
But you set yourself reasonable goals, and like you said, even if you have 26 lectures to memorize, if you have that weekly calendar of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can prioritize yourself and which day I'm going to do 3 lectures, which day I'm going to do 2 lectures. And that's another thing, I tend to reward myself. So if I read 100 pages because I do a literature degree, then I give myself a snack.
I love it.
I feel like that's a common thing
I used to go down to the shops after I studied for like 3 hours and then go buy myself a chocolate bar and come back up.
Yeah, and then that's fresh air, and that's the chocolate satisfaction. So
but I think I used to reward myself too much, in the sense I used to buy loads of chocolate and come to my room and then spend the next 3 hours just eating chocolate.
I know, for me it doesn't work with food. I'd reward myself with like, okay, I can watch something now. Because with food, I'm like, I could just eat it now. But what's holding me back?
That's what it is with like watching programs and stuff. I just do it in between my study.
I don't
really bad.
I don't really enjoy like watching. I feel like I'm really like sensual person. So if I watch a video, then like even if it has a little bit of music on it, it'll stick in my mind when I'm reading the books, and I don't want to do that. So just eating a snack is like great for me.
Fair enough. But yeah.
And I feel like it gives me more energy as well, because like
yeah,
especially if I'm looking forward to it. I think just giving yourself something to look forward to and making everything bite size is really, really helpful.
Very true. I think my thought for the week is a little less, I don't know, it's not as advice giving, I guess. Inspirational. I'm learning another language, and
that's inspirational.
Can I guess?
You know what it is.
Oh, is it still that language?
Yeah. So I've been learning Korean for this summer holiday. I've been sort of studying the grammar a lot more and taking it a bit more seriously. But I've sort of been trying to learn for the past year, and I'm at a point where I can, converse pretty well with native speakers. But the problem is when I'm like doing everyday activities, because right now I'm really trying to get myself in that zone, because when you try and learn another language, you really need to sort of immerse yourself in that language, or else where am I going to hear Korean? I've never, I'm not in a place where there are loads of Koreans or anything like that. So it's really trying to listen to it all the time and that type of thing. But the problem is when I like start talking randomly, it comes out as Korean, or I sometimes get my languages mumbled up because I also know English and Bengali, so it's really like strange.
That happens with me with Urdu, I'm not gonna lie.
And I'm feeling this like really weird like phenomenon where even like I'd start talking, it'd be the wrong language, and I'm like, that's not correct in this situation.
That's actually really cool.
It's really,
I think that happens to me with Urdu a lot.
And sometimes in my dreams it's in Korean as well.
But we need subtitles for that then.
It's really strange, but yeah. So I feel like, it's good to learn another language if you have the time, because it just, I feel like it opens up a lot of doors, and 100%. You are able to understand another person's culture a lot easier, in the sense that, if you're understanding what they're saying to you, then it makes it easier to understand them in general. But yeah, I think after I've hopefully learnt this and become a bit more fluent, I might move on to learning a different language. Definitely Arabic is on the list.
Yes,
inshallah, because that one's obviously important. So, But yeah, I guess that wraps up our thoughts for the week. If you guys want to share your thoughts of the week, if you're listening, please do. We'd love to hear it. Where can they get in contact?
You can text or WhatsApp us in on 07779 481822. You can call on 01582 481822, and we are on Facebook Live. So just comment down below. Stay tuned during the show, of course, and let us know your thoughts. While we like to have a discussion, and you can join in.
Yeah, I love it when you know Facebook Live gets mentioned. We just stare straight down the camera.
We just like Facebook Live.
Well,
Hey guys.
Should I put the Instagram on? You know what? Let's put the Instagram on today.
Yeah, so you can comment and please just get in contact. We want to hear what you guys are thinking, the contributions that you have to our discussions, all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to move on to our hot topics. So if you don't know, this is a part of the show where, you know, we discuss topics that maybe are trending right now or important things that we think is worth discussing. So today's is going to be the importance of having empathy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Amina, would you like to take over?
Well, we were talking about this, like about what we want to talk about in our hot topics, and we decided to discuss, well, you just mentioned the importance of having empathy, and why is it such an important thing, characteristic to have. And I think Faiza, who isn't here, she was mentioning that it's when it's kind of sad to see someone being mocked for something that you don't understand.
Right.
For example, if there's someone who is really stressed about a certain thing, but it may not stress you out, and you might say to them, oh, well,
It's not that
just
big of a deal.
get over it, it's fine, you can handle this. But having empathy means that just because it doesn't mean that you have to relate to that person, because we can't relate to every single person in our lives. It just means to try and understand their emotion. You don't have to understand why they're feeling this way, but just imagine if you were feeling upset about a certain thing, how would you want to be dealt with? I mean, we all get stressed about certain things, and I think saying lines like get over it or calm down are quite dismissive, and it doesn't really help.
It's annoying in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been told to get over it or calm down, you think, yeah, okay, yep, that worked. I'm over it now, thanks a lot. It doesn't work. That was sarcasm. But just in case
And
anyone
those
didn't
type of
know.
people will need that clarification.
You're not offering any type of solution. You're just telling them to stop doing whatever they're doing, and it's it doesn't make sense. How am I going to stop feeling the way I'm feeling just because, you told me, great, well done.
Yeah, and also if you don't have a solution, I mean, we don't always have a solution for things. Try not to resort to that line. I think when you don't know what to do, if this is your first time
consoling someone.
Consoling someone in this certain situation, maybe try to understand what they're going through instead of dismissing it because you don't get it. I think maybe ask them why do you feel this way, or just try to get them,
hearing them out.
Yeah,
I think that's the main thing that you're working
listening
to them. And like you said, I think that's really true. You won't be able to understand everyone, but you know how it feels to be upset. So it might be such a trivial thing in your head, like why they're reacting, but you know that feeling upset about something that matters to you isn't a great feeling. And just listening to them and extending your arm to them, or even if you don't, some people's nature, they might argue that they don't know how to be in that situation and they feel that they're going to make it worse. At least just say, I'm sorry you're feeling this way. Is there anything I can do for you? Just even saying, offering your help.
Is there anything I can do? I think that is a good way to go about it.
Yeah, because you're trying to, is there anything I can do? You're trying to understand what they're going through and you're trying to help them in that sense. And I think the person who maybe is going through a struggle or, whatever it is, will definitely feel that sincerity coming in.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's actually a really good way to go about it, because sometimes there's either two things that the person needs from you. They either need advice or they just need you to listen. And I think sometimes when when someone's giving you advice that you're not really in the place to hear at that moment in time, it can be quite overwhelming or even annoying. So I think it's a good thing to ask the person, like, do you need me to just listen to you, or do you need my advice, or just literally asking them, what do you need me to do to help you? I think that's a good way to go about a situation where someone is, feeling that kind of emotion.
It's just, I think something that you mentioned earlier before on the podcast, it was something that really hit me, is that just try to, everyone has different ways of experiencing something, and I feel like even if you can't resonate with them, at least just empathize with them. And I think that's something that our religion really teaches us, like how you mentioned the story about the prophet, and he saw a child was crying over a bed, and then he did a little funeral for him. Like, the prophet went to his level to to ease his anxieties and ease his sadness. And I think when you one of the things he said that try to make everyone feel like they're so loved. I think that's such a great way to kind of have interaction with people, make them feel special. And I think something else that Prophet used to do is when someone used to talk to him, he used to give his undivided attention to them. And I think we really lack that. People talk to us and we're just scrolling on our phone because we don't have the etiquettes anymore. We don't give our attention anymore. And I think I think people feel alone in that sense, because that is the kind of communication barrier. I think we've created our own communication barriers when we're talking to people. And I feel that when you do give that person attention, they do need comfort. They need that empathy, and having saying those loaded statements, it really can destroy a person. You might think it's a complete and trivial thing you're saying, but they could be on the edge of a cliff, and just that one little statement can push them over. And I think it's having that awareness in trying to be caring for other people. There's nothing wrong with being caring about someone you don't know. And if you see someone's in distress, it's as a Muslim, you can't just be idle and just walk by it. You have to do something. That's your responsibility. That's what the community spirit is. We're from a philanthropic religion. We have to care about each other. And I think that it's also creating that self-awareness, because as I mentioned, because a lot of people suffer from different things, and it could be people are silent about what they suffer. And you have to be kind of understanding. It could be mental health, and one thing I think everyone should do and take the onus on themselves is to educate themselves about mental health and how people may behave, because somebody could be having a episode or reacting to something really, really negatively, and it might even come across toxic to you, but that might not be their personality. That is just the result of their mental health that's kind of driving them that way. And I think if you have a bit more empathy, you'll be able to see that you're able to separate those kind of feelings that this person is a horrible person. No, that person suffers certain things and they've experienced something in that way, and that's not definitive of who they are. And what kind of person are you to help them in that situation,
and how you can help. I think that's the way we can have a more empathetic attitude towards the people that are around us. But yeah, we're gonna move on to talk about our main topic now, which is vanity, pride and perfection. So I guess the first thing I want to ask is what is pride to you guys? And is it a bad thing?
I would say, like, you can interpret that word in different ways. I think, like, I don't know, being prideful can be taken too far, I would say. I think you can have pride. It's a good thing to have pride if you value yourself and the things that you do, or like, having pride in your religion or pride in your family, like just have...
Is that pride or is that confidence?
But I would say pride means, like, having pride in something is being proud of it, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I don't know, I guess it'd become a bad thing if you're proud of things that maybe are, I don't know.
I feel like being, I don't know.
Like having pride in, like, maybe in your character. I think sometimes I'm not saying like we should think that, oh my God, I'm such a bad person, but
No, yeah.
I think when people, I don't know, when you hear someone say that they're a good person when they're talking about themselves, you think that's a bit strange. I mean that.
Yeah.
Like it's
Agree.
all.
Yeah, it's the language as well, because you could say I try to be a good person, but
Yeah,
I am a
or
good
when you say
person.
I am a
See?
good person,
Very
that is
definitively,
weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to hit at, and I think I kind of agree with you, is when you're proud to have certain traits, or you're proud of something, but then it's negative when you think you're above someone, or you're trying to take someone's rights
Right.
away.
I feel like, to me, pride has a lot of negative connotations.
Yeah, I
when
feel
you're
like
proud
pride.
of yourself.
I think pride does have negative.
And I think
Ultimately,
pride
for
in
me,
itself is when you do have that
yeah, superior complex. That's what
better than someone else, or
I
putting
agree
others
with you.
down.
I attributed pride to that superior complex that I'm
Okay.
better. than
But
you.
not even putting others down. I think more so not thinking about other people.
That's true as well.
Thinking that you are it. That type of thing.
That's just the extreme level.
Having too much pride is to think that you are just above everyone.
I don't know. I feel like it's quite a difficult complex because
I
for
think
me
it's different.
personally-
Depends how
aspects
you
of
treat
it.
how you treat that pride. I mean, if how you handle it in your life, if that makes sense.
But then
do you think pride is just an extension of finding quite deep-rooted happiness in something? Because, people have... They're proud that they're from a certain country, patriarchy, that's sort of an extension of pride in a way. Also, things that they've done, they can be proud of the accomplishments that they've made. But do you think that's just because they find quite a large amount of happiness in that? Because I wouldn't really say I have a lot of pride, I guess.
Yeah, because I would say I'm proud of
Yeah, I'd
certain
agree.
things, but I don't have pride in it. I don't think, wow, this is...
Like I did that.
I did this, or I did that, or I'm from this country, I'm so proud, like it's my pride, this is my pride. I don't use that word pride very I think it's a very strong word.
Maybe it's difficult because maybe we haven't really experienced it to a full extent.
Yeah, and I know I see a lot of people that are very proud of their countries, and they have a lot of, and they even use the word pride, but then to even discuss it, we're kind of struggling to kind of define it. I think there's so
Do you
many.
think
Because is that
that's
pride or just love?
Do you
for
think
their
that's a
nation?
bad thing? I mean, sometimes people are quite proud of
Well, I think.
where they come from, but
I think
Do
if
you
you're
think-
proud,
do you think
from
it's a
where-
bad thing?
But I think what Mariam was saying is when it starts affecting others.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
That's when it's a bad thing. Or
Yeah. Or
even
when you
if
think
you're
above
not,
someone else.
even if you're not, even if you don't think you're above people, if you're not paying the right amount of attention to people, or you're ignoring people,
100%.
that in itself is necessarily a negative impact.
Yeah,
isn't
and
it?
when you have that exclusivity kind of nature, that you think that our people are this, and we can't.
Well, that's
learn
what we usually associate with pride, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sort of exclusive mindset.
like putting yourself into separating
Separate, yeah.
yourself from
Yeah.
the rest of the population.
Yeah, I think it's quite a difficult one. I think there's different spectrums to pride.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, if I'm being honest, I always have attributed pride to be quite negative. I think being proud, it's crazy because if you say, when you describe pride, it's like when you're proud to be something, but you can be proud in a positive way. So I'm proud to be
That
Muslim.
doesn't mean you should
Yeah.
never be proud of what
Yeah,
you've
of course.
done. But I think there's a difference being proud and being humble. You
Yeah.
need to strike a balance between the two, where we define pride as being quite, a being full of yourself type of thing, where you have certain attributes and you're deciding to, state, I guess, that you're better than others because of these attributes, and that humbleness being,
Yeah.
and I think you need to really strike a balance between the two to be able to live life happily, I guess.
It's a difficult one, to be honest.
But then if we talk about vanity, which is, loving oneself, I guess, to an
Vanity
extreme.
is something that's so...
Do you think that's an extension of pride, or do you think that's
course
something
it
on
is.
its own? Or
I think it's a bit... I don't know. Wow,
I think that's an extension of pride. I think vanity, I would say, is when pride is taken too far almost.
okay.
So when we were saying you can be proud of your religion, but then when you say that, or you can be proud of where you come from, but when you say I love my culture and it's better than every other culture, I think
Yeah.
that is, I think that's where vanity comes in. Maybe when you see yourself and then think that is
I've seen that quite a lot in
the best thing.
Muslim community. A lot of people, and even it's quite intrinsic actually, because some people, they may do certain acts. Let's just give example, praying salah.
Yeah.
They think if someone doesn't do salah, then they're the worst people. They're disloved by Allah. Disloved a word? Okay, just saying, just not loved by Allah, or they're not favored by Him. And I think that's a quite a strong word to use as well. How can you decide if someone's good or not?
Well, if you search up the definition for vanity, it actually says excessive pride or admiration of one's own appearance or achievement. So it's very much grounded in yourself. So I guess it is an extension of pride, but not necessarily to concepts or other things, but more so just of your own self.
Yeah.
Of oneself. Like, I look amazing, that type of thing all the time. No, but what do you guys think, vanity, having that much confidence in one's own appearance, do you think it's a good thing? Yes or no answers?
I don't think we can say that. I don't think it's healthy to think that you don't look good.
Yeah.
But it's also where it's unhealthy is when you think that you look better than everyone else,
and you take it over.
Yeah, and when you make it when you think that's the best thing about you.
Yeah,
I think that's when it's a bad thing.
Actually, that like vain.
Not really, but we'll continue the discussion after the break. Join us then, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz. Listen to Inspire FM shows in your time by heading over to inspirefm.org or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome back to Sister Speak. We are live, and yeah, before the break we were talking about vanity, pride, all that type of stuff. So we just want to continue the discussion. So Mariam left it off on, have you guys actually ever met anyone that's truly vain in terms of their appearance, that type of thing?
I want to mention, I don't think vanity is, well, you did read out the definition.
Yeah.
But I think vanity can be having a lot of pride in your appearance and also in the way that you are as a person, if that makes sense. I don't know, like, some people really love the way that they look, and they love the way that they carry themselves. Like, they love
that's just their love
they
for
just
themselves.
love their entire being.
Yeah.
I really want to meet these type of people.
But I don't think it's a bad thing, though.
Yeah, but I haven't met someone like that, so that's
I
very
think it's
interesting.
only a bad thing when they think, yes, they truly love themselves and they think you look like muck. Like, that's when it's a bad
I think it becomes bad when they believe that, yes, they are like, they're the best thing around and the only best thing around.
Yeah,
and like everyone around them is below them. Like, that's when it's a bad thing. I think during the break we were discussing like how, like, would you be successful in like
would it hinder you in any way if you had vanity to a certain level? And I think the discussion was sort of going to the point where in some situations, maybe not. Maybe it's a good thing, when you need to be able to sell yourself, you need to know where your strengths are, and you need to really love yourself to be able to do that.
I think that's quite confidence and self-love. I think, it's knowing that you have these strengths and learning to show it as an asset, because, you could know what your strengths are, and you could go to an interview and say, these are the things I do. For example, if you say I'm a radio presenter, I can communicate well, etc., etc., etc. I wouldn't define that as pride. I'm being prideful about. I would say that these, I know I have self-awareness, and I know these are my strengths, and I can be an asset to you. But
so they're different. Self-confidence and loving yourself is very much different to
pride
and vanity.
So anyways. But I'm willing to learn other people's definitions.
Do you think we all have a subconscious level of pride within ourselves?
I think so. I think definitely we have a subconscious.
I mean,
have you ever caught yourself being somewhat big-headed, and I think that's what people normally class as pride, having a big head.
Yeah, I think so as well. Sometimes you, I think for me personally is when someone, I'm trying to explain something to someone and I've done it over again and again and again. And, I've like exhausted my patience, and I'm not just saying like 1 time, 2 times, I'm talking like 100 times. I think pride comes to me like, okay, they don't even deserve to like be explained to. They don't know. They don't have the capacity. What's the point? I'm like, what's wrong with me? I'm not better than them. They just don't understand. I have to explain in a different way until they do understand. So I think it's quite important point that when you know that you could have, because you're a human being, you can subconsciously do things that could be negative. It's just catching yourself out and kind of like, you know, assessing yourself and saying, no,
Definitely.
let's rethink that. You know, why are you thinking this? Let's not allow that to
Let's
affect.
try and change our attitude.
Let's change our
develop for the
attitude.
future.
Let's try to positively take whatever we're experiencing.
Maybe that is the
go
maybe
ahead,
that's like the difference between someone who's confident and someone who has too much pride. Like when you have confidence, I mean, you mentioned, like, I don't know if you mentioned, but this is how I interpreted it. Like in job interviews, you did mention that, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, they ask you your strengths, and you have, like, you list a lot of things, but they also ask you your weaknesses.
100%.
And when you have confidence, you're also self-aware. You know what you can and can't do. But I think if someone has too much pride, they might say, I don't have a weakness. I can do anything.
I hate to break it to those people. You're not going to really go far in the interview.
Yeah, everyone has a weakness.
That's the whole point of the question, is to help you see what kind of strengths and weaknesses you have, and especially in a job, they want you to be willing to learn.
Yeah, well, to see how you approach different scenarios and the type of person that you are. I had something I was going to say about this, but
it's okay. We could take a minute to think about it.
No, in terms of vanity and pride, so they're two different constructs, you know, self-love and vanity. But yeah, I think with me personally, like there have been situations where, you know, I'm talking to people and I've realized that, oh my God, I've had the complete wrong approach to this conversation because, you know, just subconsciously, like I've never thought of myself as a big-headed person. You'd never think yourself, I think, normally as a big-headed person or a person with pride, blah blah blah, all these different types of things. And there may be situations where you catch yourself doing things that you're not necessarily proud of, ironically. So, you know, there have been situations where I'm like, that's not the way I should have, you know, talked to that person, or even just they may not have realized it, but I know that the way I was talking to them, usually if it was someone else, I wouldn't talk to them like that type of thing.
100%.
So in that type of situation, you know, like you said, it's important that you decide that what you're going to do from that moment on. And I'm glad that I've been given the capacity that I can notice when things like that happen, you know, even subconsciously. Afterwards, I can sort of reflect on it and think, you know, next time when I meet that person, I'm going to talk to them properly, you know, and I'm going to be nice about it, that type of thing. Definitely that self-growth is, I think, what enables you to detach from that pride maybe
and I also
that
think
people
it's
have.
apologizing as well, because sometimes you know we
Definitely.
mistreat someone and you realize later it won't kill you to say sorry.
But I think the point is like, you know, the other person may not even know
that's true as well.
that you maybe looked at them in a different way, or maybe you know you've had prejudices or anything like that.
Of course.
The other person may not know, and the point of the matter is you owe it, I guess, to yourself to be a nice person when
100%.
you talk to other people, because you know, I guess, the best how you are and what's going through your mind.
Yeah.
So if you know that you've had a prejudice when talking to someone, or you've been somewhat big-headed, or your pride has stopped you from really making a connection with that person, then, you know, next time to sort of sort yourself out.
It's kind of like redeeming yourself to yourself.
Exactly.
I think that's just a part of growing up. I think we could probably all remember a situation where we were like, where we'd go back and tell ourselves, like, you don't need to think like that in this situation.
You're an idiot.
Yeah. I think another thing about just like growing up and learning about having confidence, I think having confidence in other people as well is just knowing that we're all learning from each other 100%. And that they know things that we don't know, and then we also know things that they don't know. I think I think that's just a big lesson in life, is that we can learn from everyone around us. Like, it doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah, for sure. I think people who do have a lot of pride maybe feel like, you know, those categories and whatever it is, like you said, it doesn't matter who they are, but to people who have a lot of pride, maybe it does. And that's where you see, like, you know, I don't know if you've ever met these type of people, but they can't really take criticism or, you know, say, like, you know, if you give them sort of feedback on the way they did things or their character, that type of thing, they won't take it well. And that's because, you know, they probably believe that, you know, they have a lot of... I feel like those type of people have a lot of
Or
pride.
they will reject and say, no, I'm not like that. You're just, you know, you're misjudging me. Yeah. I think that happens a lot as well.
So do you think that, like, putting people into categories and boxes, do you think that comes from pride and like maybe having I just thought that because when you think having pride, you think that that person would be secure, but a lot of the times you realize that the reason they think that they're better than everyone else is because they need to feel more secure by putting other people down.
I feel like I feel like they don't put people in boxes, but I feel like the boxes that we are put in, because inevitably we always are. I don't know why, that's society. We all are sort of classified and put into boxes, that type of thing. I feel like people with a lot of pride use those boxes.
So I guess they take comfort in those different labels and titles and things.
Because maybe theirs is better than yours. I don't know. Someone might go to a better university than you, and to them they can act a certain way.
Like
but
the be all and end all of.
And it doesn't warrant a certain type of behaviour, but to them it does. And I feel like, that's when pride becomes negative, and that's when it's not a good thing. Because I feel like in the past, there's been a lot said about prideful people and that they're not good people. But I think if you have it a little bit, like, take happiness in what you've done. If you've done a good thing, be happy that you did it. But I feel like taking pride and using that as a tool to get one up on other people is where it's wrong.
I think for me, it's especially because the language is really important. So for me, it would be like, be proud of what you've done. But for me, I think it's because I do English literature. Like, pride is such a strong and loaded word. So I wouldn't really utilize the word pride. I would always use, okay, I'm proud of this, and I'm grateful that I had these opportunities and it's allowed me to achieve what I have. I think that's where the humbleness comes from, because when you have gratitude, you know that you're attributing your success not only to yourself but to God, or you know that it's not completely down to you.
Yeah, so I was just thinking that, like, being humble is like when you have success, you don't. When you're too prideful, you think, what, I did this, it was all me, and I I just did the whole thing. But I think when you're humble, the most important thing to do is thank God for like giving you the ability to even achieve that. I think that's the most important thing about like not falling into. I think it can be quite easy to fall into being too prideful as well, when you forget, like, you simply forget to thank God for doing whatever you've done.
Yeah, I think for me, one thing that I kind of catch myself like in Lamisa is sometimes when I have an understanding of something and I understand it well, so for maybe a concept or something, and people haven't experienced those certain things. So for example, it's really bad to say, but say for example, you've been to, okay, let's just give an example. Say if you go to university and you experience diversity and you understand people and you understand how to be open-minded. And so when you meet a narrow-minded person, it's so easy to kind of just say, oh, they're narrow-minded, they won't get it. And like, I feel like that's kind of, sometimes I do catch myself doing that. I'm like, oh, they're narrow-minded. Like, I can't extend, like, have that conversation with them. There's no point. Obviously, like, I think it's just, I don't know how to explain it, because, it's like them and us, that kind of type of thing. Is when you do that, that's when pride happens. I'm not saying that, have a conversation with every single person. And then if you can see it's going negatively and it's resorting to unnecessary comments or debate, or not debate, even just comments that are not necessary, then to stand back. But, when you have that feeling like, wait, it sounds really, I think it's not, it sounds very overbearing, and I don't want to say it like this, but it's like, okay, I have that education and I'm open-minded, but you don't, so that's why you're saying it. That's why your stance is like that. I think that is pride as well. I do catch myself sometimes doing that, thinking, okay, they don't get it because they haven't experienced in that, so like, just leave it. Like, that's almost thinking, oh, they're beneath you because they don't understand it. So I think that's something that I definitely need to work on as well, because I do catch myself doing that.
So it's very easy to, I guess, be prideful in different situations without even knowing it.
Maybe because you have something that someone else doesn't.
100%.
But I think, like I mentioned before, like I had to learn that for myself, is that it doesn't matter, like, this person may not have the same background as you, but they know more than me in a certain
different way,
in a certain topic, or they might, they might open my eyes to something that I didn't understand before. Like we said, like we've learned a lot on this show as well. Like we've changed our opinions based on what other people have said because we didn't see it that way. I think that's kind of the beauty of like meeting different people, is that, you know, we don't always have to have friends from the same background or who are doing the same things, because when we know people from like all walks of life, we have a broader understanding of the world. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind when we're communicating with different kinds of people, is to, like, you know, put down everything that we, not exactly put it behind us, but, you know, put everything that you know, keep that in mind, but also be open to what the other person has to say. I think that's like, you know, maybe like that's where our pride comes in, and that's where we have to put our pride away.
I think that's something that kind of like came to my mind while you're saying that is, you know, when you, again, it relates back to faith, is that, you know, when you know that, you know, you're having those interactions, but you're conscious that ultimately you don't have knowledge, Allah does. Like, He ultimately has the most knowledge, and so who are you to kind of categorize that person and kind of say, oh, they don't get that, so they don't understand, blah 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 blah. They might have other qualities like being patient. They might be patient in the most exhaustive situations, and you might be the most reactive. There's other things. I think looking at every single person as a human being, and it doesn't justify, if someone does treat you badly, it doesn't justify them to treat you badly or treat you in a negative way, but it's also just not defining them as that those negative qualities. I think that's something that I struggle with, and I think it's really important to kind of take a step back. And I think the main concept is that, you know, when you are so self-aware, when you try to be so self-aware, I don't think you have time to kind of think about what other people are going through, or not going through, what other people are doing, and how they respond to things. On, you know, if you see that you have certain qualities that are negative, and you're trying to actively try to mitigate that, then you won't really have time to look at someone else's flaws.
For sure. I guess I'm going to bring the discussion towards vanity and our appearance. Do you think that people nowadays tend to obsess, well, not just nowadays, in general, I guess, people tend to obsess more over having a perfect appearance rather than a perfect character?
I honestly do think it's a big part of our, like, I think it's a really big part of modern culture, especially with social media becoming a bigger part of our lives than it's ever been before, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing, because we were discussing this before. Like, we might know a few people that, or even ourselves, I don't know. Like, you know, when you get ready and you think, oh wow, I look really great. I feel like that, and it's being advertised a lot. Like, maybe with, I don't really know where I'm going with this point, but I do think that having pride in the way you look is a big part of our culture. But maybe it takes it too far, where we think that's the ultimate. That's like the best thing that you can be, is like a good looking person. I think that's when it becomes a bad thing, because I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with thinking that you look good, because if you don't think you look good, then that can kind of lead you to feeling upset about the way you look, which is not good at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, if you think that that's your peak, like just your looks, then that's where you're kind of in trouble.
But do you think, you know, those types of people actually struggle with forming connections and relationships with other people and actually just being a nice person?
I don't know. It depends on how they value their looks. I think you can take, I don't know, you can value your appearance, but you can still be
a nice
very
person.
much value your character and how you treat everyone else. But maybe if you put your looks above everything else, including being a good person, then I guess that will get in the way of your relationships.
I feel like in the world that we live in some situations, people do prioritize looks over character.
Yeah, I'd say,
And
for example,
in the past
like,
as well, like especially in situations like I feel like a few studies have been done. I can't remember where I read it, so don't quote me on this. And this is not like 100% fact or anything, but you know, where good-looking people are more likely to get jobs and things like that, and people in some parts of the world actually get, you know, plastic surgery and things like that done to increase their chances of getting jobs.
Yeah.
I guess that's just a sad reality. I was actually talking about this with a friend the other day, that when we talk about children, when like a child is really cute, but they're basically a naughty kid, but if we find them to be a cute child, we say, oh, they're really cheeky. But when they're like not as cute as you want them to be, which is really sad because they're just a child, you say that child is naughty. And to be honest, I have been guilty of that, and I was like, wait a second, okay, next time I meet a kid who is naughty and is also cute, I'm just gonna say that they're naughty, because I don't know, like,
but you feel more inclined to let
I don't
them
want
off.
to.
That's true.
I think it's quite sad. Like, I feel like I had to check myself and think, why am I
thinking that
categorizing kids? I mean, that's just weird. Not that like any, I don't know. You just kind of. It's just, I feel like it's human nature, but also you have to check yourself. Like,
but I feel like if you're doing it at that level, which doesn't have any serious consequences, there are people doing it at different levels with serious consequences, you know? And that's the thing, like it's a really harsh and sad reality, because of course it's a no-brainer. Character should be valued more over looks, because what are looks gonna do realistically? It's the type of person that you are that gets the job done, I guess.
Yeah.
But, you know, sadly there are people in different positions which may not necessarily openly discriminate, but perhaps, you
unconscious
biases and things like that. And it's a sad
I think
reality.
I think one thing in our culture though that is quite prevalent, maybe not as much in this country, but in our home countries, is the colorism. So fair skin, brown skin.
I think it's
skin.
still quite
it's
prevalent in this country. It doesn't.
Yeah. I think
It's
that's another bias, and it's quite open bias actually. You know, people kind of say that, oh, that person's really fair, like especially when it comes to, and it sounds so strange, when it comes to marriage, a lot of, like, I saw it when I was young, a lot of people would be like, oh, their daughter-in-law is fair, or that person's fair.
I still hear it like all the time. Like when you, I don't know, like you'd see someone and they'd walk off and they'd be like, oh, they were really pretty, and I'd be like, yeah, and they'd say, yeah, she was really fair skinned. I'm like, okay, that's not what I meant. But
it doesn't necessarily, they're not like, you know, fair skin equals
or saying
pretty
that
face.
even like saying someone's pretty, I mean, I've heard people say, oh, that person's really nice, they're so pretty. I mean, why can't you say like, oh, she was nice, I like the way, I don't know, I like what she said about this, or I like,
she was really sweet, and
something about the character. I think the reason why our looks play such a big part in our lives is because of just what we say
100%.
in passing comments.
100%.
Literally, it's just that. And I think we have to be careful, especially around children, when we talk like this, because that teaches them how to view people. When even when we compliment people, I saw this post on Instagram where it said, I think it was 50 compliments that are not to do with your looks, and I think that was really cool. Like when you meet someone, instead of saying, oh, you know, you're really pretty, I don't know, that's such a weird thing to say when you first meet someone.
You know how we were talking about the lottery of the fact that we are lucky to have been lived here, but that's just another thing. It's like a genetic lottery. It's like that's not something I did. That's okay. Yeah, thank my parents for if you're complimenting someone on their good looks, thank their parents, because that's what they contributed to them. But that person themselves did not say, I want to be good looking.
It's not something that they worked for.
Exactly. So I feel like
it's a blessing to have, but it's not something that will make you who you are.
Exactly.
Like
and
your character is the
complimenting someone on stuff that they've done or things that they've done, like actually contributed a conscious effort to, is a much better compliment than, you know, just saying.
And I think it's better for just as humans, it's better for our confidence when you're told you're doing well at something that you've worked hard for, rather than your looks. I mean, complimenting, or even what is the opposite of compliment? I completely forgot.
Insulting.
Or insulting someone. I think sometimes on their looks, I think it is really, I don't know.
It's just a bit unnecessary.
It's just very two-dimensional. It's just, it kind of shows that, I don't know, it doesn't seem like there's a connection when you don't look past the surface of, or like just someone's looks, because that, I don't know, when you first meet someone and that's all you can talk about, then I don't know, it just seems like there's no connection.
It's an emptying kind of conversation, really.
Yeah, I think it is important to, you know, when you are complimenting someone, then just tell them, I like what you said about this thing, I agree, or
that's a really articulate way to say something.
Yeah.
You're very intelligent, you're very kind, you're very sweet, you're very nice,
yeah,
etc., etc. And I think people, I think I use those kind of compliments a lot. Actually, I don't think I really compliment people on their looks. I don't think I
think it's only when people make, like, you can tell they've made a conscious effort to look good that day. Not necessarily, I mean, they probably look good all the time, but, you know, in the way they've styled themselves or their outfit, maybe they put some makeup on.
So you look nice today. I'll be like, you look nice today. I like your
But
dress,
it's not just saying generally, like, you're really pretty or things like that. I mean, as nice as maybe it is to hear, and I think that adds to the culture of, again, vanity and that type of thing to those people, because that's the type of compliments maybe that they've been receiving, and that's the way that, you know,
that's true,
people speak out to them, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important to be careful about what you say in front of children, because I think as a child it really shows them what is important.
100% agree with that.
And then they will be the ones who grow up and then have the same kind of conversations, and it doesn't,
attitude changes,
where does
over
it
time.
stop?
Yeah, exactly. So if you instill in that future generation compliments more to do with people's achievements, or not just achievements, but things that they've done, the way that they are as human beings, that in itself will help to change a generation.
I think just encourage good character.
Yeah,
and then like you'd be a good person to anyone if you have good character.
It's like saying you're so beautiful because you're kind to that person. How beautiful is that? So, you know, you can use those words, but it's just how you use it and what's the outcome of those compliments that's going to bring. Like if you compliment your child when they do a positive step, or they've been nice to someone, and you really put emphasis on that, they're going to repeat that behavior again in the future. And they're going to feel that they like that feeling. So that was really an insightful conversation, but that's the end of the show. So we'll see you next week, inshallah. Tune in.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We stream our daily broadcast on inspirefm.org. You'll find all our daily updates on our social media at Inspire FM Luton.